So you want to learn how to play Sarco. Well, lucky for you, you've come to the right video. To start off, the first thing you'll have to do is choose a subspecies. And I'll be honest, all of the subspecies are good. We got nice little balanced here, we got thickums defense here, and we got skinny little speed here. Personally, I like playing as speed because I feel it's the best for combat since you have a slight speed advantage against most other Sarcos. But defense is definitely my favorite just because of how chunky this man is. But in the end, any subspecies is viable, so choose whichever one you like most. After you've chosen which subspecies you're going to use, you're going to want to try to find a nice quiet spot to grow, as being a tiny little Sarco on land is not very fun. A few notable spots that I would recommend trying to grow is Sickleclaw Valley up here in the top right in the map, as you have 3 quests here and you can run to the left here to Crawdad Creek, get a couple branches and acorns, and then you can also run down here to do some more, I think 3 more quests. This is an area that I like to cycle between each 3 POIs while I'm growing. Plus there's the Waystone here for your initial Waystone quest, and over here you have the Little Brook Meadow Home Cave for your quest, but do be warned, this is a very dangerous spot, as a lot of large mix packs tend to group here in KOS. Another spot I would also recommend trying to grow at can be Tyrant's Gorge sometimes. There is the home cave down here, which is pretty close, although again, some people do like to camp this home cave, although not as frequently as Little Brook Meadow. And then there's also Amphitheater Lake up here, which provides another 3 quests or so. And I like to go between Tyrant's Gorge and Amphitheater Lake, and then also right up here, Sweetwater Gully, another couple quests you can do. You can cycle between these 3, or you can also head over to Bowerbrook Lake here, which has a nice lake area for your little Sarco. And I think 3 or so quests. There is actually a branch quest at Bowerbrook Lake that gives a minute in growth, just like a group quest would, but it's only in 20 or 30 branches. So that's also a nice spot. And then as a bonus, you have the Northwest Waystone right down here for your quest. Now another option is the Center Lake here. You have Turtle Island Home Cave. You can easily log out there to get your home cave buff. And there's Talon's Point right here, Corpse Cove for quests, Central Waystone if you want to try to get your Waystone quest if you're close. However, again, this is a very popular spot. So can Corpse Cove and Talon's Point be, especially for Sarcos, so you will want to be cautious of adult Sarcos here. And if you're bold, you could swim up to Little Brook Meadow here, but I would try to avoid that area as again, there are a lot of KOSers. If you happen to spawn down in this lower section of the map, there are plenty of home caves here, most of which tend to not be as popular. Maybe this one here below Spine Lizard Lagoon, because a lot of people come down here to give trophies sometimes. There are the Waystones on either side for your quest. And now, personally, I normally don't really come down here to this side of the map. Most of the larger lakes in the southern part of the map have quests here, and they are likely to be less populated than some of the other locations up here. Now, some places that I would recommend you avoid is definitely Spine Lizard Lagoon, a known KOS hotspot. It's going to be, most of the quests you'll have to do is on land anyway as well, so you're going to be easy pickings for anybody who wants a little baby Sarco snack. Grassland Crater is also another spot I would avoid. There's not a lot of water for you to hide in, and there also tends to be a lot of KOSers that camp outside this home cave. And then again, Little Brook Meadow, definitely want to stay away as much as possible. Now like I said earlier, if you are near a home cave, such as at Tyrant's Gorge or Turtle Island, then I do recommend logging out every time you get off, because when you log back in the next day, you'll actually have a growth buff depending on how many hours you were logged out. And the buff gives you 2 times growth for a maximum amount of up to 1 bar. So that's a pretty solid deal if you ask me. It only takes 4 or 5 quests to complete it, and then that's an easy full bar of growth. Now that you've started your Sarco adventure and have gotten a little bigger, it's time to start choosing abilities. We'll start off with our head slot. Now Sarco has 2 head slots, which allows you to choose 2 bites, obviously, and you have 3 bites to choose from. We'll start off with the normal bite. This is the bite you're probably familiar with as you spawned in with it. Just a quick little snap. It allows you to quickly snap at people's ankles, and it does a decent amount of damage with about 50 raw damage. Now I find normal bite to be very useful when you're on land, or you're getting real up close and personal with whatever you're attacking, especially if you're kind of just brawling it out, tanking hits. Now the next bite that does raw damage is your crushing bite. And this bite, you actually hold it to charge it up, as you can see here. And once it gets up to this final spot and stops making noise, that's when you have a fully charged bite. It'll close after a few seconds of it being fully charged. And a fully charged bite actually does 210 damage, which is the highest amount of raw damage in the game. And while you're charging it up, if you let it go sooner, it'll do a little less damage. The damage output all depends on how long you charge up the bite for. Personally, I like to use Crushing Bite, as I find it's very easy to quickly overwhelm prey, especially when doing hit and runs against other Sarcos. Now it would take about 4 normal bites to do about the same damage as a full 1 Crushing Bite. Another reason I love Crushing Bite is because if you're ambushing some mid-tiers, if they're not at 100% health or just small, and you get a headshot on them, you will most likely one-shot them. And that is always a beautiful feeling to have. Now the last bite you can choose from is Ripping Bite, and this one does a low amount of damage, but a ton of bleed. Right now it actually does 1.5 bleed, which is the most amount of bleed any attack can do in the game. There it is right there, it has about a 4-second cooldown. This bite is a must-have in my personal opinion. Whether you choose to use Normal Bite or Crushing Bite, you should always pair it with Ripping Bite. When you're fighting mid-tiers or other Sarcos really, it only takes 2 to 4 bites with Ripping Bite, and that will completely cripple an enemy with bleed, basically forcing them to go run off and heal. Especially mid-tiers, it only really takes 1 or 2 and you'll be able to track them down. You can actually combo your Crushing Bite and Ripping Bite, so boom, ton of damage, and then bleed right after that. And then once your bleed attack ends, your Crushing Bite timer is done, boom, and boom again. So you can just repeat that over and over again. Now you can also do the same combo with Normal Bite. Get a few in there, then Ripping. Same principle. Now one thing about this is though, if you are trying to maximize the amount of Ripping Bites you land, you are only able to get about 3 normal bites in before your Ripping Bite cooldown is over. So do keep that in mind because you will be doing reduced raw damage compared to doing a fully charged bite and then a Ripping Bite. Overall, Normal Bite is great when you're on land brawling things up close and you're not able to get away quickly. And Crushing Bite is very effective at doing hit and runs, charge it up, swim into a Sarco or whatever you're attacking, bite them, and then swim away. Now our next ability would be our Metabolism. And from here we have Hyper Carnivore, only able to eat meat, but slow food drain. Fisher, which is what you start off with. Moderate food drain, but you can eat meat and fish. And then Scavenger, where you can eat fish, meat, carrion, shellfish, and bones. Fast food and water drain. Personally, I use Hyper Carnivore, and I also would recommend it once you're an adult. And this is because the much slower hunger and thirst drain is really helpful when you're waiting or setting up an ambush. You just don't have to worry about food as much as you do with Fisher. And honestly, even though you're not able to eat fish anymore, by the time you start to get hungry, you'll most likely have found someone to eat. Next up we have our hides. From here we have Standard, Thick Scales, and Thin Hide. Now right now, without a doubt, Thick Scales is definitely the best hide to choose. And this is because it gives you 1.5 armor, so about a 50% reduction in damage you take. And while it does say it decreases your speed, it doesn't right now as it's currently bugged, so it's only benefits with Thick Scales. Thin Hide I would definitely stay away from at all costs. This is because it actually drops your armor down to 0.5, which is a 50% increase in damage that you take. and it really only gives a 15% increase in speed, which is very nice, but if you plan on getting in any fights, do not use this, as even a solo mid-tier will easily be able to kill you on land. Right now, thick scales, in my opinion, is definitely the best that you can choose, especially if you want to get into combat and fighting other Sarcos. Now our final ability slot is our tail. In this one there's only one ability, Lunge, which you can use while you're in water, which I will demonstrate now. Lunge does exactly what you'd expect. You sit in water, got some prey on land, go activate it, lunge up right onto land. Very nice ambushing tool there. There's no reason not to use it, as there's no other ability that you could put there. It does use about half of your stamina though, so you will have to keep that in mind and use it wisely, as you don't want to be caught out of stam while on land, far away from water. I hope this video has helped you guys become more confident in your Sarco journey, and be sure to stay tuned for my next Sarco guide video, which will be about combat tips. If you have any tips you want to add, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. See you guys in the next one.